If you picture a Nobel Prize winning theoretical physicist, you probably imagine someone quiet, tucked away in a lab, speaking in a language only three people on Earth understand. But what if I told you one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, a man who rebuilt quantum mechanics and helped build the atomic bomb, spent his free time cracking military safes and playing in Brazilian samba bands and deciphering Mayan hieroglyphics? This is the story of Richard Feynman. He wasn't just a genius, he was a professional rule breaker who proved the best way to understand the universe is to never stop playing with it. Born in 1918 in Far Rockaway, Queens, Feynman's obsession with how things worked started early. His father, Melville, didn't teach him raw facts. He taught him how to look at things. He'd point at a bird and say, "You can know the name of that bird in all the languages of the world, but you'll still know absolutely nothing about the bird itself. Look at what it's doing." By age 11, young Richard had built his own home electronics lab. This was the Great Depression, and instead of buying new toys, he fixed his neighbor's broken radios. He gained a local reputation as the boy who fixed radios by thinking. When a radio hummed or screeched, Feynman wouldn't just replace parts blindly. He'd pace the room, figuring out the circuit logic in his head until the problem clicked, according to him. This taught him a lifelong lesson. True knowledge isn't about memorizing jargon. It's about tearing a system apart until you understand its fundamental mechanics. It was a mindset that took him straight to MIT and later to Princeton. In 1941, World War II changed everything. At just 24 years old, Feynman was recruited to the Manhattan Project, the top secret government mission to build the first atomic bomb. Surrounded by legendary scientific titans like Robert Oppenheimer and Niels Bohr, Feynman refused to be intimidated. While other junior scientists shrank in the presence of greatness, Feynman would argue aggressively with anyone if he thought their math was wrong. Oppenheimer took notice, making him a group leader. But Los Alamos was a pressure cooker, and to keep his sanity, Feynman became the camp's resident trickster. He noticed the military filing cabinets filled with the blueprints for the project were incredibly insecure. To prove it, he taught himself how to crack safes. He'd slip into his colleagues' offices, guess their combination based on like the digits E or pi, and leave cheeky notes inside their top secret filing reading, "This cabinet was picked by Feynman." He wasn't trying to be malicious, he was just pointing out vital truth. Blind trust in authority creates a false sense of security. After the war, Feynman took a teaching position, but he burned out. The weight of the war and personal tragedy left him feeling drained, so he made a radical decision. He would only work on physics if it was fun. While visiting Brazil on a sabbatical, he split his time between teaching physics and playing the frigideira, a fry pan style percussion instrument in a street samba band for carnival. When he returned to America, that playful attitude unlocked his greatest breakthrough. One day, in the Cornell cafeteria, he watched someone throw a spinning diner plate into the air. He noticed the university medallion on the plate spun faster than the plate wobbled. He started calculating the physics of that spinning plate just for the sheer joy of it. That useless calculation led him back to quantum electrodynamics, the study of how light and matter interact. Before Feynman, calculating quantum interactions required pages and pages of agonizing, dense algebraic equations. Feynman threw all of that out. He invented the Feynman Diagrams, simple visual shorthand drawings that map out how subatomic particles interact. It completely revolutionized theoretical physics. In 1965, this playful work won him the Nobel Prize. Fast forwarding to 1986, Feynman was older, battling cancer, and largely retired from the public eye. Then the space shuttle Challenger tragically disintegrated just 73 seconds into its flight. Feynman was asked to join the Presidential Commission investigating the disaster. While the rest of the committee got bogged down in bureaucratic red tape and carefully worded briefings, Feynman went rogue. He went straight to the NASA engineers on the ground, asking the simple, blunt questions no one else had the guts to ask. He discovered that the shuttle's solid rocket boosters relied on rubber seals called O-rings, and that launch morning had been freezing cold. On live television during a congressional hearing, Feynman pulled off his ultimate demonstration. He took a piece of the O-ring material, squeezed it with a small clamp, and dropped it in a simple glass of ice water. When he pulled it out and released the clamp, the rubber stayed stiff, it didn't bounce back. With a cup of ice, he exposed the critical flaw. NASA knew the rubber lost its elasticity in the cold, but flew anyway. He concluded his report with a scathing warning to the world. For a successful technology, reality must take precedence over public relations, for nature cannot be fooled. Richard Feynman passed away in 1988 at the age of 69. His final words were reportedly, "I'd hate to die twice. It's so boring." Feynman left behind a legacy that goes far beyond textbooks. He pioneered the concept of nanotechnology, predicted quantum computing, and changed how physics is taught worldwide. But his greatest gift to us wasn't an equation. It was a reminder that curiosity is a superpower. He showed us that you don't have to lose your sense of wonder, your sense of humor, or your love of mischief just because you grew up. Because in the end, the universe isn't something to be feared. It's something not merely to be memorized. It's an endless playground waiting to be understood. In his lectures Feynman gave at Caltech, he taught the students that no one understands quantum mechanics, not even him, basically taking the pressure off their backs. Feynman was extremely humble with his own vocabulary. Every time he spoke, he wanted to show the people, the average citizens and students, that he wasn't anything exceptional, that in order to think like him, they didn't have to be geniuses or have an IQ of 160. Even Feynman himself tested at an IQ of 120, which puts him a little above average IQ of 100. This proved that Feynman was not just a talented genius physicist and mathematician that won a Nobel Prize. Feynman was just a normal student, but he had a superpower, an extreme sense of curiosity. Feynman always emphasized that curiosity is the only thing that drove him to physics, nothing more, nothing less. And while reading his lectures on physics in the Feynman Lectures by Caltech, I could only come to that conclusion. Feynman, to further stigmatize his statement, said the following in an interview to show that he was not anything special.
He said the following line in an interview to bring peace to the students who wanted to study quantum mechanics.
You asked me if an ordinary person, by studying hard, would get to be able to imagine these things like I imagine. Of course, I was an ordinary person who studied hard. There's no miracle people. It just happens they got interested in this thing and they learned all this stuff. They're just people. There's no talent, a special miracle ability to understand quantum mechanics or a miracle ability to imagine electromagnetic fields that comes without practice and reading and learning and study. So if you say you take an ordinary person who's willing to devote a great deal of time and study and work and thinking and mathematics and time, then he's become a scientist.
Brilliant minds and brilliant lives. Feynman not only taught that there was nothing exceptional or crazy or too over the top about him, he taught that as long as you have the right sense of wonder and a curiosity, you should always try to find things out. Even so much so that one of his most popular books is called The Pleasure of Finding Things Out. In his biography, Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, he showed many ways on how he learned complex physics and topics that were hard to understand in simple and explanatory ways. Feynman, when he was a child, took a calculus textbook
which he could not understand because he hadn't even finished Algebra 1, and just started writing down what was written. He practiced again and again and again, even though he would not understand what integration was, how differential equations worked, what the calculus was even talking about. The complex trigonometry and the college algebra involved was too advanced. But for someone with the curiosity and the hunger that Feynman had, it was nothing but an obstruction in his way. Feynman, although I've spoken about his physics and his academic achievements and prizes, is very well known as a romantic, as he said that if I wanted to be remembered for one thing, it would be for loving my first wife. In a letter he wrote to his first wife, he said, "Dear Arlene, I adore you, sweetheart. I know how much you like to hear that, but I don't only write it because you like it. I write it because it makes me all warm over inside to write it to you. It is such a terribly long since I last wrote to you, almost 2 years, but I know you'll excuse me, because you understand how I am, stubborn and realistic. And I thought there was no sense to writing, but now I know, my darling wife, that it is right to do what I have delayed in doing. And that I have done so much in the past, I want to tell you, I love you. I want to love you. I will always love you. I find it hard to understand in my mind what it means to love you after you are dead, but I still want to comfort you and take care of you, and I want you to love me and take care of me. I want to have problems to discuss with you. I want to do little projects with you. I never thought until just now that we could do that. What should we do? We should learn to start making clothes together, or learn Chinese, or get a movie projector. Can't I do something now? No. I'm alone without you, and you were the idea woman and the general instigator of all our wild adventures. When you were sick, you were worried because you could not give me something that you wanted to, and I thought I needed. You needn't have to worry. Just as I told you then, there was no real need because I loved you in so many ways, so much. And now it is clearly even more true. You can give me nothing now, yet I love you, so that you stand in my way of loving anyone else. But I want you to stand there. You dead are so much better than anyone else alive. I know you will assure me that I am foolish and that you want me to have full happiness and don't want to be in my way. I bet you are surprised that I don't even have a girlfriend except you, sweetheart. After 2 years, but you can't help it, darling, nor can I. I don't understand it, for I meet many girls, and very nice ones, and I don't want to remain alone, but in 2 or 3 meetings they all seem ashes. You only are left to me. You are real, my darling wife. I adore you. I love my wife is dead. Such a rich life full of curiosity. This is the life of Richard P. Feynman, the great physicist.